CNN's Brian Stelter is upset that people are choosing to get their news from random people on social media rather than watching the old school legacy media. But if he understood why that phenomenon is happening, he wouldn't be complaining. Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Brian Stelter of CNN and other mainstream media types who are upset with social media users, specifically those on Twitter, now known as X. Hey, you could just be a regular person, buy a blue check mark, and put out whatever you want to put out. There's no peer reviewing. There's no sources cited. You just put out news, and people take that for gospel. Now, Brian Stelter, you got some nerve because your network has put out so much nonsense. And the thing about it, before we get to this video, which I do have, the thing about it is CNN should be at a higher standard than a regular person on the internet. You guys have all the resources, brand recognition. You got all these things available to you, yet you choose to put out fake story after fake story after fake story. And it's not like you just made a mistake. Oops, sorry. No, these are things that you do in your newsroom to deceive the people, to mislead the people. So you know what we say? All right, you guys are going to play that game. We're going to go to alternative media sources. Okay, that is what's going on here in a nutshell. But before we get too deep into it, let's check out the actual news clip. I'll link to the clip in the box, of course, as always. If you're on Instagram, Facebook, visit a link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
He's oftentimes relying on random anonymous accounts, these websites, these users on X who are trying to present themselves as the new CNN, the new New York Times, but have no research behind them, no backing, no institutional knowledge. And I understand that for Musk, that's really appealing. It's exciting on his platform, but he ends up misleading a lot of people. It is striking how he does seem to be learning about lawmaking in real time. And just a moment ago, he tweeted about all the coverage of him in the last 24 hours. There's been all these questions, Dana. Is he the real president-elect? Is he the shadow president? Well, Musk responded on X. He says the political and legacy media puppets are all echoing the same idea, parroting the same message, trying to drive a wedge between Trump and me. And Musk adds, they will fail. I don't think anybody's trying to drive a wedge except those Democrats who are saying it. Journalists are just trying to understand the relationship between Trump and Musk, because it's one of the most important relationships of the next 4 years.
Okay, so you get the idea what's going on there. Now, this is what I already called out. I said the same thing that Elon said, and I didn't even see what Elon said about them just trying to parrot this message about Elon being the so-called shadow president. But I said that in the earlier video. Whoopi Goldberg said it. One of the Democrats on the House floor said it. It's all saying the exact same thing, which is what they always do. And inevitably, when they do things like that, it winds up being a lie. Like the whole thing about Trump and Vance being weird. Remember that one from, who was that, Tampon Tim? Tampon Tim was the one who started that. He went on TV and claimed that he did that. He claimed ownership over starting that. But it wound up that he was the weird one, twirling and whirling, like a cheerleader. A 65-year-old, 12-year-old girl, basically. But anyway, now, CNN. I just covered this story, which was one of the most ridiculous acting jobs I've ever seen on television, whether it be for a documentary, a movie, whatever it is. This is a real CNN report. This is your journalist. What's her name? Clarissa Ward. Your journalist who got caught before possibly falsifying this story about Middle Eastern conflict. Okay, you guys always do that. You are known for doing it, CNN, and not just CNN, but all of mainstream media. Now, here is a story about how the government and Democrats on Capitol Hill collude, which is all too common. This is a story about them trying to hide Biden's decline. We all know the mainstream media were in on it. The Democrats were in on it. Regular people could look at him and see that he was declining. We said, hey, what's wrong with this guy? He appears to be 1,000 years old. He's old as dirt, old as time, old as the sun, moon, and stars combined times 10. That's how old he looks. But what did they say? Oh, he has a stutter. A stutter? What kind of stutter makes you look like you are a walking mummy? Anyway, let's watch this from Fox. Check it out.
I had a front row seat to a lot of this, and at various times was basically told not to believe what I was seeing or hearing. The president misspoke. The president has a cold. But now the dam appears to be breaking. This Wall Street Journal item interviewed 50 people familiar with Biden's operation. And it raises a lot of questions about who was making key decisions. You mentioned the Afghanistan withdrawal. If the president was as diminished as this story makes it sound, that would be a huge problem, and it could explain why certain decisions were made that turned out to be catastrophic and why no apologies were ever made. To your point, Brian, when the cabinet met all 9 times, which is the least in the last several decades that a president has had their whole cabinet together in an entire term, there was a different item a few months ago where cabinet secretaries were being asked to submit their questions for the president behind closed doors in advance, and they were being told to keep it quick because the way that it worked was they would ask a question that was pre-screened, and then the president would have a card with the answer, even in a closed setting. And I hear a lot.
So the thing about it is you got congressmen and women doing this, and also the mainstream media doing the exact same thing. They're trying to hide them. You're hearing it right here, and we saw it with our own 2 eyes. We saw the flashcards and all of that. So again, Brian Stelter, this is part of the reason why we don't trust you guys anymore, because we have caught you literally hiding things, lying about things, gaslighting the public. Why would we trust you? What I tell everybody is, look, don't believe me, don't believe them, do your own research. And what we're doing right now on platforms like X, formerly Twitter, the internet in general, we are getting to the truth because you guys refuse to tell us the truth. But I digress.
A lot of the complaints about, and there was a bite in the open, why wasn't there more coverage of the president's age and acuity earlier? Well, a lot of the stories that you hear...
You kept asking.
I kept asking the whole time. And a lot of the stories that we would hear, that we would try to report out, are secondhand, but it's a lot of stuff like, you would hear from somebody on the staff or somebody that works at the White House. It looked like the president was falling asleep somewhere. Okay, hard to confirm that, but we have tape of him falling asleep at events, Peter, as recently as his most recent foreign trip.
Exactly. So shout out to Peter Ducey for keeping it all the way real. Keeping it all the way real, man. It's like at a certain point, as I close, we don't even really need to know that they were hiding it. Like we don't have to get a statement from CNN or anybody to say, oh, we were trying to hide the president's health condition, his mental capacity, his physical dexterity. They don't need to tell us that because we saw it. We literally saw it. He would fall on the ground, feet up in the air, the little horseshoe stuff on his stabilizing orthopedic boot, whatever he had on, is facing the camera. And then they wouldn't say, oh, well, it was just a little mistake. And, you know, everybody trips and falls. Not really a big deal. But when Trump walks down the ramp a little bit slowly because it's slippery, he doesn't want to fall, they say, oh, man, something's wrong. You got to get him out of there, man. We got to, you got to yank him, man. He looks terrible. See, that's a concept. That right there is what we're talking about. If you're going to be a media platform, if you're going to be a media network, lead with the facts. You can give your opinion, and that's fine. But don't put out your opinion as fact, and don't hide facts or obfuscate facts or manipulate what the facts are to present a false message to the public. Don't do that. And I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your take on the whole situation with your Brian Stelters and whatnot, your mainstream media types complaining about individuals like you and I going to alternative media for our news rather than them? Oh, they're not qualified. They've not done this. They've not done that. Well, you guys in the mainstream media are quote unquote qualified. You have done this and that and the third, but you still pull out lies. And it's not just about a mistake, because I could report on this story and give you my opinion, and in my opinion could be proven to be incorrect. That's one thing. But what they do is they intentionally put out lies to misdirect and deceive and craft narratives, which is completely different than just making a mistake. And if you do make a mistake, own up to it. If you do lie, you shouldn't be lying because you're in media and your whole point is to tell the truth. So, hey, I would just say to Brian Stelter and everybody else in the mainstream media, stick to the original plan, stick to the original script, report the truth, and have that be that. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that is all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.